Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program RP0. This is not part of my RP0 playthrough. I should make that clear right here off the bat. We are here in the spaceplane hangar because I was issued a challenge. And the challenge was kind of a race, really, to see who could get it all done first. But it was to build a shuttle that was capable of lifting 20 tons to low Earth orbit, and then construct a space station using said shuttle. The station had to consist of at least 5 modules, so you're looking at least 5 launches, and whoever got it done first gets wins the internet prize, I guess was the was the goal here. But this is not my usual fanfare. It's not something I really intend to do much of. I just had some free time before class for me resumes on Monday, so I was like, hey, why not? Let's give this a shot. Because it has occurred to me that while I have done shuttles in my RP0 playthrough before, I have never actually built anything with them. They've done satellite launches and they've fulfilled crude contracts to just have a crew in orbit for a certain amount of time, but that's it, because I don't know, I've never actually built anything by launching multiple shuttle launches before, so I felt like it was a good time to just prove to myself that I could actually do it and I could perform orbital rendezvous with a shuttle. So I figured, hey, why not? Let's give it a try. So now that we're about halfway through the initial build here, this is me just kind of plotting it all out and getting things figured, I guess. The main body of the shuttle, we're using the longer cargo bay and these Mark II parts, because the Mark III parts are ugly. I was told that I could do this in Sandbox mode, but I initially prototyped it out here in my actual save, my actual playthrough. As you can see, the money and the cost figures down there at the bottom left. Because I wanted to use stuff that I was kind of familiar with, and I figured, well, hey, if I can build this for the challenge using parts that I have available to me, I can maybe later move it into the playthrough and use it there, provided, of course, it actually works. But I am going with the HG3 engines because I have them unlocked, like I said. It would be nice to use this in my actual playthrough as well as just here. And the Mark 2.5 parts. But yes, these are HG3, these are the actual vacuum variant, because the time spent in low atmosphere is worth the trade-off for the extra ignition and the higher thrust versus the sea level variant. Orbital maneuvering will be done by those two AJ-10 Advanced. Unlimited ignitions, pressure fed, unlimited runtime was basically the fast, easy sell on them. So I'm just plotting out wing surfaces now. I do this based on entirely what looks good. I don't consult FAR until it's already become a huge headache and everything has already gone tragically wrong. But, really, if it looks good, it'll probably fly good. And I will probably be tilting those wing surfaces up later, but it's just so much easier to get control surfaces bolted on when they're still flat. And, of course, nothing wants to cooperate, right? And I have that little weird gap that I can't quite get rid of without it overlapping just a little bit. Whatever. It just irks me. So I spent more than I should have trying to figure that little thing out. But seeing as how this was intended to be a race, I decided to save all of my concentration and my stupid ponderings for post. So I just had my mic off during all of these recordings because thinking of things to say while trying to do it in the fastest possible manner was just not working out very well for me. Alright, and control surface is almost done, one more to go, and you can still see that our center of lift is way behind our center of mass, but I also don't think I have any fuels dedicated for this thing yet, which will obviously shift that center of mass. And really the great judge here is whether or not FAR is going to be happy. If you can keep FAR happy at least most of the time, it tends to work out a whole lot better for you. Alright. I'm going to slide that tank down just a little bit and start putting some fuel in things. I'm generally pretty happy with this shape. Alright, and now it's time for a tail plane. So, I do like to build it out as 2 tail fins and then just make them very close together, and I will demonstrate why in a little bit. It just it makes other things a whole lot easier. Yeah, and a lot of tinkering around here with the B9 procedural wing parts. They are really cool to work with. I am glad that I got accustomed to these, as they do provide just much cooler options than the stock wing surfaces. But I'm sure any of you who have been playing this for any length of time are well familiar with that. Alright, and time to build out the actual tail plane and not just the mount for it. And that looks alright. I think that will be high enough and far enough back to where it will get into the airstream during re-entry, which has been kind of a consistent problem of mine, is keeping that yaw stability, especially during high speed. But I do also have atmospheric autopilot installed still, and I do intend on relying on that quite heavily. And we'll tuck that in just a bit and slide those together. Alright, and let's see what FAR has to say. Wow, sea level at least FAR is pretty happy. Yeah, higher altitudes not so much. Really, even, well, until we get down to about Mach 10, FAR is not okay with much of this. But anything below Mach 10, FAR seems to be pretty happy. We'll give those wingtips a little tug. FAR seems still to be pretty pleased with this. But just to see if we can't get a little bit more on that yaw stability side. Well, the number's going down, just not by a whole lot. I do like building airplanes. It's just, man, it gets way complicated. And so I'm just, this is more for appearance than actual stability. I realize the airflow through there isn't going to do anything a whole lot of good. Making sure that we have 2 of them is probably a good idea. But it does just look better, at least from the profile. Once you look at it straight on, you realize there's a big gap in there. If we had Rapier engines, I would definitely try to tuck some air inlets in there somewhere in hopes of filling or covering that gap a little bit. But I do think that looks way better. And down at Mach 5, FAR is pleased. All the way down to Mach 1, almost regardless of altitude. As long as we're below Mach 10, FAR seems to be okay with this. So we should probably give it a means of landing safely. Alright, and we're just going to disable the friction control on that, because that seems to be the only way to get stability out of 1.1.3 wheels at all. Same as the front, but the front one we get steering. And now, thruster placement. Oh, thruster placement. Seeing as how we're going to have to do a lot of orbital maneuvering and things like that, I think having the big thrusters is probably a solid selling point. We're going to need a means to ullage these engines, preferably along the center of mass. Alright, and something to keep our tail pitched. Yeah, it looks like these are definitely the best options. And we'll just disable them for everything except pitch control. There we go. Maybe making some more fine-tune adjustments to some of these other thrusters is a good idea. Alright. These will probably burn off, but having them as a means of control is an excellent idea. I did not mean to do that, especially not twice. But I do want them lined up with those other thrusters, just to... it looks better. Alright. Yeah, don't duplicate the body. There. The distance between those 2 thrusters looks almost okay, but I think I do want some quad ports, and we'll configure those appropriately and get another set. Yep, those are the ones I'm just going to have to go with. Alright. And we'll need something here for pitch control. Good. Yeah, those look really weird, don't they? Let's just tuck them down a little bit. There you go. And we'll duplicate those out onto these thrusters just to cover that axis that they don't. And try to set up their configuration. Alright, just making sure that their engines were configured appropriately. And I I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah, and so we'll just, we've got life support in that big ring at the very top of the cargo bay. Going to build in some small additional fuel tanks for Aerozine and N2O because I want it along the center line of center of mass. And a crew carrier, because if I do bring this into the career save, having it being able to carry 3 people is pretty much a necessity. And we'll give that a docking port because we'll need it. FAR is, yeah, relatively pleased with this, but time for a test flight. So we'll get it outside and just fire up the HG3s. We have not offset them for a cargo load, but maneuverability check is really what we're kind of here to determine. And yeah, wow, this thing, oh boy, I did not configure the control surfaces, so they're all kind of fighting with each other, and that's causing me a big yeah, okay, this needs some changes desperately. So first thing, we'll reduce this, and we'll correct that, and we'll make some changes back here, and go outside again. And air brake check works. HG3s fire up. Mach 2 before we leave the ground. Alright, this just feels a lot more solid. So we're going to kind of ride this up to a good altitude and pitch down and just see how it maneuvers. Good, all our RCS thrusters are firing. The gimbal on those HG3s look really goofy. Lot smoother to turn now. Now that the control surfaces are configured appropriately, this is working a whole lot better. Oh yeah. I'm fairly pleased with this. So let's get it into the VAB and build out the tank. So we've got it here, we've got it inverted. So we'll get our decoupler on there. I put it up high like that so I'd have room to move it down. But now it's just a matter of building out our primary liquid hydrogen fuel tank. I'm going to go with the teardrop design like I have on all of my other shuttles because I like it. That's really the only reason. There is an aerodynamic advantage in that it shields most of the shuttle behind the aerodynamic flow, kind of creates a wake for it to exist in, to where all of these nice bitey drag-laden control surfaces and stuff like that aren't absolutely ruining your aerodynamic profile on the way up. At least that's what I've been told. I am absolutely no expert, but it is going to need its own control core because we are going to pack a lot of fuel into this thing. And now it's just a matter of getting it sized up to the point where we can get our runtime on those HG3s to something that we like. You know, we'll just tuck away that computer core. I am not going to feel very cheaty about that. But 9 minutes 21 seconds, 9 minutes 41 seconds. But the delta V numbers look pretty good. So we're going to try to angle our engines and get them firing as close to the center of mass as we possibly can. And we're going to get some boosters on here. Yeah, I don't know. What else we got? Ooh, yes. Let's try these. It'd be neat to have these, have a shuttle that goes up on actual SRBs instead of liquid boosters like all of my other shuttles have. But they will need a nose cone. There we go. All right, and let's get some clamps on it. And get our staging set up. We'll get some clamps over here, some clamps over here. All right, I think that looks good. Yeah, we're just gonna dump some extra liquid hydrogen here into the body of the shuttle itself. Size this up a little bit, try to get our runtime and delta V where we want it, but now it's time for the real test. Like I said, it has to be able to take 20 tons to low Earth orbit. So we're just going to tuck a big chunk of lead ballast in here. There it is, 20.01 tons. And close this up and get it out to the launch pad. And liftoff is good. So far it's alright. The acceleration numbers are okay. Roll program works not particularly well. But hopefully we won't have to do that for our actual launches because we'll just angle this craft on the pad to the correct direction. Now the problem here is we got about 10 seconds left on these boosters, and we are not nearly going fast enough. Our thrust to weight ratio just on our twin HG3s is not nearly going to be high enough. And you can see already, we'll just let them bounce off the wings. This is not going to work. We don't have enough delta V to make orbit. So we're going to have to redo these boosters. And in redoing these boosters, I've decided to just go with good old liquid fuel. 8 total E1 advanced engines, burning kerosene and liquid oxygen. If anything's going to help us get 20 tons to orbit, it's going to be the massive power of those engines. And they're such a small, compact package, too. So we'll get those configured. I will also be switching the tanks to balloon. Massive weight savings. And then take it out to the pad. Now this is all super sped up because this was actually quite a long burn to orbit. But these HG3s and their longer burn time than even those solid rocket boosters got us up to an appropriate altitude and an appropriate thrust to weight with enough delta V left in the tank, where I really think orbit is not only a possibility but an assurance. And now we get to do all the neat fuel balancing tricks that comes with firing an offset thrust through an offset center of mass. This is always the most fun part of flying a shuttle prototype, is not having the fuel quite balanced yet. So with a constant little pitch maneuver and constant adjustments trying to circularize this orbit, there we go. Looks like 307 by 242. So I dump all the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen from the shuttle back into the EFT and ditch it. Looks good. Let's get it polished. So now switching all of the tanks over to balloon, and I'm also going to be switching the cargo and putting all of the liquid oxygen in the very nose tip tank. Add some additional batteries and RTGs to the cargo bay and get these things all painted and looking pretty. Almost pretty, yeah. But now we're going to need some set motors. We can't have these things bouncing off the wings. But that's it. I think our prototype's ready to actually fly. So next time, I'll be building out some cargos. But thanks for hanging out. I know this is a little off the beaten path for me, but I do appreciate it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too, and I will see all of you in the next one. So until then, see you later.